Now, more onto your knowledge. Ahsoka episode 4. What the friggity fuck?
What an episode.
Yeah.
We were worried about pace. I don't think we need to be worried. We hoped that this would be the episode where they make the jump and it progresses. And
they absolutely had to make the jump this episode.
It was essentially straight into it with the prep of the jump and everything. But so I have a bunch of notes. I did a lot of deep diving as well after this episode of checking things and like Easter eggs and stuff I'd seen people talk about. There's a lot happens in this episode, and it's like, I mean, for starters, a fun thing I've seen since last week that someone worked out is the planet Cetos is essentially named after the Greek god Ceto, which then led to the Latin for whale, which is Cetus. So it's essentially the whale planet.
Which is the planet they were launching from, which is where all the Purgle were.
Yeah, which is very cool.
The most Star Wars thing ever.
Yeah. It was very cool to see Huang kind of hold his own.
I thought that when he threw a punch, I was like, fuck yeah. Huang,
I was like, the man's learned a few things. And he went, I don't know if you noticed, but he went very, very General Grievous using his extra arms. He swung a punch with his, that was very cool to see. Also, we saw early tension between Ahsoka and Sabine, which I think was foreshadowing for what came.
Yeah.
Then we got a very, very cool fight in the forest, I thought.
Yes, I enjoyed that. The fuck is Marek? Is he...
Okay, so...
Is he Dathomirian? Is he like in Jedi Fallen Order?
Everyone's theories. Zombies? So everyone's theories are it's Starkiller. It's
Ezra.
It's some fallen, whatever. You're all fucking
Sam
wrong.
Whitworth.
Yeah, you're all fucking wrong. All it was a Night Brother that most likely, like you say, similar to what we saw in Jedi Fallen Order when they all come back as zombies, if you remember that from the game.
Yeah.
On Dathomir. We know that the Night Sisters can raise dead. We've also seen them do weird shit with bodies. We saw them magic up maul some legs. Yeah. So that green dust effect, we've seen similar with when Maul's brother died, the big chunky guy, he turned to green dust. I make the prediction that the Inquisitor lightsaber, it was just something they had.
What was available.
Yeah. To give to him, or
and he was covered up because he's an ugly zombie boy.
Yeah, and it was just some raised thing. It was just some Night Sister magic shit.
What I will say is, all I'm going to say is Dave Filoni has done it again. I know he didn't direct it, but he wrote this episode. The death scene for Marek is very similar to Maul's death scene. You've got that moment they square up, they line up. Instead of it being the double-ended lightsaber like Maul had, he was spinning, and then Ahsoka just very calm and collected. Then one move, bang.
Yep.
Literally the same car. The only difference is she doesn't fucking spin around and catch him.
Yeah, it was very quick, very calculated, and I think it was perfectly done. And then I saw people say, "Oh, maybe it was Maul," and it's like, you really think Dave Filoni would have brought Maul back and just ruined his ending to bring him back as some random, no. It was genuinely just some Night Brother, I think, that was raised from the dead. Hence why he was in armor.
Yeah, it could have been a fucking Inquisitor that
It could have been a dead Inquisitor brought back. Yeah. That also is a possibility.
Who was it they said the armor looked a lot like? Was it
the sixth or fourth brother, one of the two. So yeah, it could have been that. It's I think people were trying to too deep dive into it. But yeah, like you say, it's spinning very quick, very cool from Ahsoka. Something I also noticed in that fight. Just before that fight, when the soldier guys are there at the ship shooting them, and Sabine's getting she's like this, blocking them. You see across this episode, there's a few times where Ahsoka leans into dark side tendencies, which is her like grey Jedi. Like she clearly cares for Sabine and was like, there's one point where she grabs one of the other soldiers and moves him in front of the blasters, and then he dies and he throws the body away. She does some cool shit where she's like, doesn't care for the Jedi ways, obviously.
Yeah.
We saw the fight between the apprentice and Sabine, which was
the rematch.
Which, when Sabine was using her blasters, she's fucking nuts with them.
She's
like, I don't
Mandalorian.
Know, yeah, I know. I don't know if you noticed, there's like one bit where the apprentice girl's running away, and it's like the shots are like where her foot just was on the tree, or like it's literally just missing her. The only reason she loses is because of the force push.
Yeah.
Also thought it was funny that Sabine jukes her out with a ha, and she's like, well, you've got no power, and then she goes psych and just shoots a rocket in her face.
I'll be honest, that kind of threw me off at first. Like, she put her hand up and the girl kind of braced for it, and at first I didn't realize she braced. I thought she just like worn it like a champ. I was like, oh, Sabine showing off a bit, and then she kind of looked at her really disappointed. I was like, oh no, she didn't. She was like, you have no power, and then she hit the rocket. I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like a moment if you're like, oh no, Sabine, you've tried to force pull and it's not worked, and then it's like, oh wait, no, you were just fooling them. And what else happened? Oh, that's when we got the Balin Ahsoka.
That was such a good fight. It's interesting that Balin knew Anakin quite well by the looks of it.
This is the thing. We don't know. So he knew Anakin, and he knows Anakin became Darth Vader, which obviously a lot of people didn't know.
Yeah. That was like relatively uncommon knowledge.
Yeah. So how he knows that, we don't know. Obviously, we don't know how he fell out of the Jedi thing, if it was during the Order 66 stuff or what. Very interesting to know what his past is and how he knows Anakin so well. Or if it's just purely from like word around.
I have a thought.
Okay.
The way Balin holds his lightsaber gave me vibes of a very particular force wielder.
Okay.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Okay.
And who was Qui-Gon's master? Dooku. And what the Sith known for, despite the Order of Two? Having secret fucking apprentices. And we know he had Asajj Ventress, and then not Darth Maul, his brother.
Yeah, I can't remember what
Savage Opress.
Yeah.
What if there was also Balin?
Possibly. I think so it's hard to tell because obviously you've gone like they're trying to tie it maybe to Qui-Gon. I took his like whole appearance and the way he held a lightsaber and his stance and stuff. They're very much going for a knight vibe. Like if you watch it, it's very much like as if a soldier was on defense, holding a spot,
100%.
like sword up.
If you even look at his and Shin's armor, it looks more metallic.
And it's like a
compared
chest,
to like the Clone War armor.
It's very medieval-esque in its look, and I think that's what. And if you look at his lightsaber, it's got a little like hand guard, even though you wouldn't need one obviously on a lightsaber. But it's, I think partly
maybe he's from some other order.
Well, I think he was at the Jedi Order. I think he was old enough during the time to obviously know that Ahsoka left, and probably then saw the ending change of Anakin. I think he obviously or there is a theory that maybe Anakin had a secret apprentice after, like as he was becoming Vader. It's interesting to know where it came from, but I thought it was
also...
Go on. I was going to say, I thought it was very cool that it felt almost like they kept swapping stances to kind of weigh up how much knowledge they have to like of like different Jedi stances and stuff.
Don't get me wrong, I love the twists and the twirls and the flips of the prequels. I do. The way Dave Filoni choreographs his the way he wants lightsaber fights to be, with a lot of it being like almost, especially between two Force users, it being more like chess, I
Mm.
really enjoy. Especially when you're trying to like, yeah, the good guy has to win, but we need the bad guy to not look completely outmatched here. How do you do that?
Well, that's the thing. It's like you need to set the like understanding to the viewer that like these are both people that understand and are very powerful people. So it's like they're not gonna just like have one stance and not know how to fight. They're gonna know all the ways of fighting. I thought it was very cool the little kick sequence that Ahsoka did when she's like on the back foot and she's like, fuck this, and just goes like foot again, showing kind of Sith tendencies of like a bit more aggression. Full on just does like a kick combo on him that he wasn't ready for. Then she like grabs the orb though and like full on burns her hand. Which
What's
I think
really interesting to me is he seemed to be really angry at her for something.
so. I got the sense he was willing to kind of talk things out. He isn't. This is why I think he's not pure like dark side. Like we've been told there's something going on there. He obviously isn't very much like this has to be done through Jedi versus Sith. That's it. There's a fight to the death. That's not how things have to be. And I think he hoped Ahsoka being like no longer Jedi would understand that, but she was just like old tendencies. Was like he's like, of course it comes to this. Possibly that's why he was angry. I don't know. I like how he blamed very on like up front at the beginning, like blamed her for the fall of Anakin. But then I'm so pissed at Sabine. I'm so pissed at Sabine.
I was sat there after my shower with a towel on, just going, Sabine, what are you doing? Sabine, what are you doing? No, don't. I was waiting for the Duke. I was waiting for her to pull a pistol out. No, just hands it over.
I was sat here, and obviously, like, in the back of my head, I'm like, she's just going to hand it over. But I'm like, Sabine, shoot it. Just shoot the orb, Sabine. You can still shoot the orb. Just do it. No, she's
it's not too late.
Over. Yeah, and she's giving the orb over. And then he fucking destroys it anyway. I'm trying to remember other things.
Do you know what I thought was very interesting?
Go on.
Jin starts trying to kill Sabine, and he steps in. He's like, "No, I gave my word. We're gonna honor it." That is not very dark side. Do you know what it is? It's almost like he is. I forget the name. Do you remember? I don't know if it's Legends or actual canon, but there's the really, really old school Sith from like old Republic times who was like not interested in ruling the galaxy. He was like, the way of the Sith is just look out for your number one and backstab if you need to, do whatever's best for you. And he was just like a successful businessman because he was cutthroat as fucking business and didn't care about anyone, but he still honored his word. And it's like it's almost like he's more of an old school Sith that's not interested in absolute power, but rather being.
That's what I get. I get the vibe. It's like he doesn't believe. He's essentially, I think, also grey, even though it doesn't exist. But you know what? We're still gonna always say this, but like, I think he's grey Jedi, leaning more Sith because he will use more violence at times. Hence why he's like the orangey red. I think it's very much like he doesn't care for the all-out Sith must rule everything. He wants to like have his control of his situation, so he will team up with the person that's going to be in charge. Thrawn knows that's going to like give him a certain level of power that keeps him safe, but he isn't like some noble Jedi anymore. Like he doesn't see the point in that. It's his word. He wants his own control of his power, sort of feel, and playing his own game clearly.
Yeah.
We the jump. We got Phoenix Squadron. Parts.
I'm disappointed we didn't get CZ.
So, I think we are going to. I think this is like them being like Phoenix leader and all that, and it's like, oh shit, we're getting Phoenix Squad. We lost 2 when it jumped. And a point to be made here is this is pre when we see the hyperspeed jump. Is it in the sequels when it destroys the ship?
Yeah.
We obviously haven't seen that. So it's like, because this is a ring, they don't get absolutely obliterated, but it does screw them up. I thought the effect of that was incredible. They did an amazing job at how that was like portrayed.
Yeah.
I think obviously we've lost the way to jump now. There's no map.
Mm-hmm.
The only other way that you could follow them is Purgles. Now, what if Phoenix Squadron got back together?
Are we going to get another show turned into Mandalorian season 3.5? Because we know that Baby Yoda has an affinity for animals and has, I mean, he's seen a Purgle in hyperspace.
I hadn't thought that.
I'm going to be quite disappointed if that happens.
I was more thinking Jason.
So this is what I was going to say. This is one of the few things I did like fully note straight away. We got the iconic "I have a bad feeling about this," which is almost exclusively said by Force sensitive people.
Mm-hmm. And across Star Wars.
I actually thought Ahsoka was going to say it. There was a point earlier on where
at the beginning,
and Ahsoka kind of looked around.
Yeah.
And I was going, I'll go on, Spin, say it, just as a little nod, so that we are like, there's a bit there. And then Jason just like almost looks like a kid who's car sick, which I think gives it the perfect thing of he doesn't realize really what's happened. His mum isn't going to twig because they've just been rocked by a fucking.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if like your mum pulls you out the way of a car that's almost hit you and you go, I don't feel great. Like she's not going to assume it's because you've got magical powers.
Yeah, I think it was done on purpose.
He was like, I have a bad feeling. Yeah. And it's like, yes, you do, Mr. Jedi boy.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. There's clearly meant to be a kind of a hint that maybe he's starting to feel the Force. Also, did you notice that he was wearing Kanan's shoulder, which is very cool.
Did you notice that there was a picture on the dashboard that is definitely Kanan?
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Right, so where Hera's control shift is, there is just a picture of Kanan.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, the everywhere the camera is, it's just like grayed up enough that you can't see who it is, but like it's a safe assumption that it's Kanan.
Something I've just thought, which we haven't talked about. You asked before we started recording about the
So there is a line in here that I'm sure a lot of people like me were like, that was said really weird. So when Sabine and Ahsoka are talking about, if we can't fully get this under control, we have to destroy the map, because if we can't get to Ezra, just us, no one can get there at all.
Yeah.
It's too dangerous. We can't let Thrawn return as the heir to the Empire. But she's given this line delivery that she's like, we can't let Thrawn return as heir to the Empire.
So,
and then just like there's dead silence for like 2 seconds, like we're all supposed to be going.
Well, yeah, it's one I think meant to like put impact on like Thrawn returning is seriously bad. It's a little overgiven, I think. Like there was a bit of extra drama for something that's, to me, I took as a little bit of like Star Wars Easter eggy. So the first time Thrawn was ever introduced as a character was in a Star Wars Legends book, I think, called Heir to the Empire.
Okay, cool. That makes so much more sense.
And obviously Legends got wiped from canon. Then obviously Dave brought him back in Rebels. And I think it's essentially like a nod to that book and his origin of where he came from and where he like created and calling him.
That isn't canon, but maybe we use some bits from there.
Yeah, basically Dave's gone, you didn't want this as canon, but tough shit, I'm using it now, so it is canon.
That line really felt like two people who know each other really well having a brilliant inside joke, and you're just there like,
there was a funny bit as well with the Phoenix Squadron stuff when Hera's obviously like, she's leaving and they're like, what are you going to do? And she's like, well, always once a rebel, always a rebel. And then they're in the ship and Jason's like, why is it you can do what you want, but I'm not allowed? And it sounds like Chopper says, because she's the boss. And it's like, finally we understand why Chopper doesn't, like, he only listens to Hera. It's like, he sees her as the boss and everyone else he doesn't give a shit. And then I was like, wanted to say, like, yeah, Jason, once you're old enough, you can also do what you want. But
yeah, I liked Hera's response to just, once you're a general, you can break the rules too.
Yeah. Once you're old enough, you can stop listening to your mom.
Really,
I guess
really
we should
good.
get to the juicy ending of this episode, though.
Yes. So Ahsoka gets clotted off the blood clot mountain.
Do you want to know what my guess was as the camera starts panning, right? At the end?
Go on.
I was like, she's not going to be hanging there because she would have climbed back up.
Yeah, she'd have done the little force jump thing that Obi-Wan did to Maul in episode 1. And she'd
then
been back up there.
I'm like, okay, she's probably fallen in the water. But I'm like, she's not dead. I know she's not going to be dead.
There's 5 more episodes and she is the title character.
There was a
What a twist that would have been.
Yeah, there was a excellent transition to where it looks like almost like sand when you get like the blue glowing like algae on sand. And I was like, oh, she's washed up on the beach. Like, she's just going to wake up on the beach and be like, oh, shit.
And then it looks more like stars in the galaxy.
And then it's weirdly rippling, and I'm like, hang on a second. Now, this is the world between worlds. I said it was going to happen. I said we're going to end up in there, and for some reason, this wasn't quite the reason I thought would happen.
No, we thought that's where the fucking Balaam fight happened.
Yeah, so... To which then, when I'm realizing that, I'm like, holy shit, she's in the world between worlds. One, looks different. It's more blue. I think, I saw some people being like, oh, there's got to be a reason why it doesn't look the same. Is this actually the world? Like, I think it's just...
It's a lot more difficult sometimes to get something that's purely animation looking
Well, here's the thing.
Compared to a live person.
In Rebels, it's like almost pitch black with white lines. And it's like, yeah, that looks great, but like it's visually quite plain. Yeah. And if you do that in live action, it was just like white glowing straight lines and everything. Like it would look weird, I think. So I actually really like how they've visually shown it in live action.
I thought it looked cool.
Yeah, I thought it looked amazing. Before she turned around and there was the voice, who did you think pulled her into the world between worlds? Or how do you think she got there?
I hadn't thought about it, but also I watch everything with subtitles on. So when you can just hear the mumblings in the background, I see the subtitles that say, hey, Snips.
Oh, no, I got that as well.
Instantly, I'm like, okay, it's Anakin. So, the fuck is going on? I'll be honest, I thought it was like, you know how, like, when they were in there the first time, Palpatine was, like, trying to play a trick? I thought it might have been... Not Palpatine. Palpatine has returned somehow. But I was like, oh, maybe this is just like a concussion.
So I had two, like, obviously she's led there and I'm like, wait, this is the world between worlds. Before she's even stood up.
It would have been cool if it was younger Ahsoka. So
I was like, I was like, holy shit, is Ezra pulled her in? Again, I was like, she's here again. Ezra's done it again, and I'm like,
that'd
wait.
Be a very Dave Filoni full circle moment, like a really old Ezra.
Yeah, and he's just been living in the world between worlds because that's like he escaped Thrawn into there, and he's like, I can't tamper with things. I'll just live here.
Yeah, and that'd go into what I said I wanted to see, which is like really old monk Ezra, who is like one with the Force because he'd been living in the world between worlds. Oh, that would have been sick.
Then I'm like, maybe this is like some weird, we're seeing what happens if someone, like, my brain's going, what if Ahsoka has died and this is like the transition to Force Ghost?
This is...
And I'm like...
The world between worlds is the Force Ghost training area.
And then, obviously, I had the subtitles on and you see, hey, Snips, and I'm like, wait, Anakin's here? No, at first I thought, oh, she's hearing Anakin's voice.
Which makes sense because, you know, you get the mirrors to the past, present, and the future. I thought we were going to get like a flashback.
And then she turns around. Anakin looked a little weird. He's obviously
The de-aging was
de-aged.
not phenomenal.
I also think it's on purpose. He looked ghostly. He was very bluey tinge.
The year we've had with visual effects, I'm not willing to give anything that doesn't look right pass on its potential.
I have more theories.
Go on. Lay them on me, big boy.
So, obviously, Anakin stood there, Hayden Christian. Everyone's like, oh my God, fucking... It's very cool. One, why the fuck is he pulling her in? How the fuck is, like, all those questions.
Why is he pulling Ahsoka in?
I was, like, looking online and different things of what people have been saying. Things that people have noticed. His lightsaber is pretty much all black. Anakin didn't have an all black lightsaber at that point. It was like pretty much all chrome.
Yeah,
all black
because the lightsabers were inverted versions of each other. His Jedi one was silver with the black bits, and then the other one was basically all black with the silver accent.
Which exactly looks like it's Darth Vader's lightsaber.
And then we get the Darth Vader theme
at the end. He's looking very ghostly. I don't think this is actually Anakin. I think this is a trick. We know Palpatine knew a way to look into the world between worlds. How do we know he didn't teach Vader that?
Are you saying Palpatine's return somehow?
How did he not teach Vader that somehow? Also, this is like gonna grill your Clone Wars memory.
Okay, I'm in.
The father, the son, and the daughter.
Yeah.
That weird mysticism shit that Anakin and Ahsoka went through.
Uh-huh.
The daughter gave up her life into Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So the daughter lives on in Ahsoka.
Which has never again been spoken about, which is really weird.
The only time we've seen it again was in Rebels, when she arrived in the world between worlds, the daughter's owl appeared and was there in the world between worlds. I think that owl's going to appear again. That same time, we saw Anakin connected with the sun, which is when people think that's his first realization of like his connection to the dark side. The theory is the sun also then sort of lives on in Anakin.
Okay.
What if this isn't Anakin? What if this is the sun?
And he's taken the form of Anakin.
And the sun had that blade that was like, I can't remember the name of it, but it was like the blade of destruction or something. What if that lightsaber is just like, what if this is the sun trying to trick? There's some weird shit going on. I don't think this is just Anakin. Would
you like a fun, theoretical, other alternative option?
Okay.
I'd like you to cast your mind back to episode 5 of Star Wars, the second film. When it's episode 5. I was checking then. Luke is training on Dagobah.
Yeah.
And he goes into what for a long time was seen as one of the worst scenes in Star Wars history, where the entire pacing of the film goes to shit for a weird scene where he fights Darth Vader and the mask falls apart to see Luke. Now, as lore has been added, this scene does make more sense. We know because of where Dagobah is and it has insane force intensity there. It was showing Luke his worst fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the moment where we can say Luke became a full Jedi because he conquered his worst fear and the Force challenged him. Then we have a similar scene with Rey.
Yeah.
What if this is Ahsoka's? But Ahsoka's worst fear isn't that she is evil. It's that she couldn't save Anakin from becoming evil.
I would... See, this is where I'm like, possibly... But she's already in a way faced that when she faced...
She's accepted it, but she
true.
Faced it.
We don't know if she's really accepted it. She probably does still blame herself. And she carries that.
I'm not saying I necessarily believe that, but I think there's definitely history in Star Wars
of
like, you've got to face your worst fear. And like, she can just go, well, it's too late, I'll never know. I'm not responsible for what he did as Vader. But if she's faced with the opportunity of, she thinks this is Anakin before she left, can she stop him being Darth Vader? Like, that is definitely going to be a potential way to go. I do think it's more likely fuckery from an external source. If we
Yeah.
get to see live action Vader versus Ahsoka, I'm so down.
If we get we got Obi-Wan, if we got the Ahsoka, but also in the world of like, if it is the son, say, and this is all some visual trickery.
Who's the father?
No. What if Sam Witwer was to play the son?
Ah.
That would be a very cool casting.
It would. It would. It would explain his involvement with the project that he refuses to speak about.
That, and also people have figured out the voice. You know, in that first episode, everyone's like, he's in voice credits.
Yeah.
If you listen to when Ahsoka first finds the orb, you can hear his voice.
Is it him as Maul, or is it him as like
people say it sounds like him as Maul?
Got yeah.
So people are like, okay, that's why he's got credits.
Oh my god! What if? Okay, sorry, I'm just gonna ride my theory because I came up with it. What if she like has to fight her worst fears, and like the battle with Maul on Mandalore's like a big battle for her, trying to save Anakin, and like the next episode is just a gauntlet of her fighting her worst moments again.
Imagine.
What if we get a live action fucking version of her having to fight off the clones? Just like her going back through like her worst fucking moments.
Or she sees them through like the visions. I don't know why this is. You mentioned in Mandalore. Then we find out that Sabine's parents died and her family's dead. Like that was like, oh shit, okay. Clearly died in the
Siege
whole
of Mandalore.
this whole bombing and everything.
Not Siege of Mandalore, the Purge of Mandalore.
Purge. So I have
Siege is the end of fucking the Clone Wars.
Obviously, we to start wrapping things up. The jumps happened. The map's destroyed.
Yeah. The
only two means that I can think of getting to there without having to wait for them to come back, obviously. Phoenix Squad gets together, including Zeb and everybody, and they ride the Purgles. Like they connect up to them somehow through Force, or like the Purgles are like, oh, we remember you guys, you're cool. And they fucking blip after them with the Purgles. I think that could be very cool. I think after seeing like how like visually that looked when they took the ship, imagine getting to see that in live action with them all glowing and then they fucking hyper jump. That looks sick. I have a fear of how Ahsoka might get there.
Okay.
She's in the world between worlds. We know that jumps time. We also know that means you can move between places anywhere. What if she can see? Like, what if she can see a window where they arrive, and to save Ezra from Thrawn, she pulls him through? Or she like hops out of one of these windows and it's where they jump to, and that's how she chases after them. You
almost said TP.
I did almost say TP. Oh, video game logic.
Yeah. It's there's so many different ways it can go, and I've never been more curious to see which way they're going to choose.
Yeah, I think the Vader theme music at the end leans into my theory that this isn't just Anakin, this is some trickery.
Mm-hmm.
Considering as well, like a lot of the times we see Sith do trickery, it's like blue flame stuff and all this like blue theme. I'm like, I worry.
No, Filoni is an absolute slut for imagery.
I worry about Sabine, considering the title sequence a few times has shown her helmet with a red light on it.
Yeah.
And she just gave in. I'm hoping that's what it was hinting to, just her giving in.
Yeah.
I think next episode we get the Thrawn reveal.
I hope so. I like the idea of Thrawn being involved in 4 episodes, bearing in mind we've heard about him every single episode.
I think this next episode is that scene from the trailer of him walking onto the ship. Like he's on the cockpit area of that golden ship.
Ring.
I think we get that. I don't think we find out where Ezra is.
I think we never find out where Ezra is. I think Ezra be dead.
No.
I don't see how we can have a world where both Ezra and Thrawn survive that.
I have a theory And I actually, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I like your theory of Ezra being like old monk. But he might
I'm a
not,
big fan of the
like,
old monk.
even if he doesn't, not necessarily even he's older, because I can imagine a thing with like, I imagine a world where they jumped, and in that he was able to find another way into the world between worlds, because it's quite clearly like Ahsoka, like it can just happen. It doesn't need some
Yeah.
portal on a wall.
It doesn't have to be a portal.
What if like they got to where they're going, and obviously like the Purgles will probably dissipate. Thrawn's alive. Ezra has to escape. He just disappears into the world between worlds. I see a way where it's like Ahsoka fights off all these demons, and then Ezra's just sat there.
I'm really curious to know, not in the sense of to the characters, but in the sense of to the Force, why Ezra Bridger is so important. Because think about it. All of these mega powerful, mega intelligent Jedis, and in 4 years, while he was still training and starting to understand stuff, he was doing stuff that none of them could imagine. And I get, like, originally you can go, well, yeah, it was designed for kids, it needed to be exciting, but Dave Filoni don't operate like that.
No.
There has got to be, even if there wasn't initially, he will have made sure there is a better reason.
He's always big picture.
Why always Ezra? And I'm really, really curious to see what that ends up being.
I think
he is the father.
No.
Old monk Ezra, and he is the father to the son and the daughter.
I wonder if there's always like, we know he was there was a like quite clearly a strong Force connection with him and Lothal and the Lothwolves and all that, and he had a connection with that, like it was the father, the daughter, the son that opened the portal. There is some weird connection there going on, which 100%. Is why I like now I'm thinking about it, I like the idea that like maybe he did escape into the world between worlds. At that point, he already understood that like he can't mess with what's going on, and this idea like he's come to peace, but like he now has taken it on himself to protect that place from the likes of Vader or like Palpatine trying to get in there and use it as an evil force. That's why he won't, and I don't think he'll leave it. That's why Ezra's never returned, because he's now like taken on this thing of, he's the Sentinel.
He's the guy guarding the Holy Grail.
I protect this. Also gives Dave Filoni a very solid reason why it can't be used all the time, because look, it's not allowed. Ezra won't allow it. It's going to be interesting. Going to be very interesting. And I'm very excited.
I think it'd also be fair to say that you wouldn't necessarily age in the world between worlds.
Yes, exactly.
Because it's outside of time and space.
Well,
so I think
it's the center of the Force in a way.
Yeah, if Ahsoka is there and he comes and fucking saves her from that weird Force ghost thing, and he's like talking proper weird but still looks like a child, he's like, it's been 10,000 years.
Yeah, it would just be like, ignore how I look. I am way more powerful than I once was.
But it's gonna be a ride to see how this closes out.
Imagine that is what Ezra's like, and he now speaks like Yoda. And it's only people
it would be
deeply
connected. It would be the most Filoni thing ever to be like, so Yoda was Ezra Bridger the whole time.
No, it's just like, you've got people so deeply connected no longer speak normally. It's just like, protector of the realm I am. I do, yeah. How this closes out, I'm very intrigued.
I'm going to say it now, I will be very angry if we get to episode 9 and I go, the pacing wasn't right. Because they have set themselves up beautifully for the pacing to not be a problem. It's only going to be a problem if they make it a problem.
I think the pacing is going to be okay, because so far it's proven it has. I think the next episode we will get the Thrawn reveal. Then we're going to get some like build up to Thrawn returning. and them having to deal with that. Meanwhile, also trying to like maybe have to give up on the idea of Ezra if he's not actually there, or what's going on there. You're gonna have Phoenix Squadron now probably scrambling to be like, holy shit, Thrawn's coming back. We've got to be ready for this. I think I hope, I'd be so happy if this ends with like Vader, Thrawn, Ahsoka fight, like some weird, like big, huge fight, and Vader comes in and it's just like, oh shit, they've got to face up again. That would be very cool. I just want, can it be Wednesday? I just want the next episode.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch it while I'm on holiday because I'm not waiting.
Why do I feel like
Uh-oh.
next episode is going to feel like a letdown because it's not going to give us as many answers as we want?
It won't. I think the only things that are going to happen is we get Thrawn revealed, and we get whatever's going to happen with Ahsoka and Anakin, and we get a bit of an answer there, maybe.
Okay, counterpoint for you. Based on the numerous amount of Disney Plus shows we've watched, would it not be very the way they do stuff for the next episode not to feature anything from where they jump to or anything in the world between worlds, and it will be focused on Phoenix Squadron trying to work out what the fuck's happened?
I don't.
They have no information.
True.
I could see that happening.
I don't think they can not at least touch on the Ahsoka stuff. Maybe we get Phoenix Squadron trying to figure out, meanwhile, Ahsoka's lost in the world between worlds.
Apparently, it is a longer episode again next week. So
yes, I think it's like 54 minutes again. So it has the potential to answer a few questions. Maybe this is the show where they finally figure out the formula.
Maybe.